Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 81. I'm your host, David J. Murphy, visual journalist with a bunch of years of experience. This week we are doing our Around the Lens show without Zach Roberts. He's busy on another assignment. But in case you know, Around the Lens is a live weekly visual journalism roundtable show where 3 to 4 visual journalists get together and talk about the news, topics, and gear related to the world of visual journalism. This week we're going to be talking about documenting the Independence Day holiday, as Independence Day is right around the corner tomorrow as we record this. So, hopefully you're listening to this show while watching some fireworks and taking a few shots of those fireworks. I don't know. We're going to talk about how we've documented Independence Day in the past. Before we go on and do that, let me introduce our panelists. We have one new panelist this week, Rick. Is that right?
Yep.
Rick, please tell us a little about yourself.
Yep, that works. So. Well, I'm a Chicago photographer, but currently I work also as a digital tech with Jeff Sortino, just at that job. But I've been photographing in Chicago since 2008 when I came out here to go to Columbia, 2011, and I wanted to stay in the city instead of move back home with my parents because Phoenix, Arizona is not as interesting as a place as Chicago is. So I stayed, did a lot of freelancing. I was an intern at the Daily Herald for the summer. Shot for a few different wire services, but mainly just tried freelancing and doing any sorts of photo or video jobs. A few years ago, I actually ended up on an Independent documentary about the John Burge saga, and we're actually still filming that. But with that, I'm just a cameraman. I'm not a producer or the director, which is kind of nice, just being the cameraman and not have to make a lot of the bigger decisions that it comes with making a film. But yeah, just always trying to keep myself busy in the city, always carrying a camera because you never know when you're going to run into something good.
Yeah, I did a couple short films in my time, and I've been the director, I've been the cameraman, I've been 16 other roles at one time as well. And then I did another job where I was just doing the camera operator job. I wasn't directing or anything, and that was a lot nicer, a lot easier to deal with, honestly. Let somebody else kind of make some of those decisions, and you can just kind of think about DP type stuff. So yes. Cool. We're glad to see you're keeping busy out there, and welcome to the show. Other panelists, please quickly introduce yourselves.
My name is Tyler LaRiviere. I'm a freelance photojournalist with Chicagoist.com in Chicago.
Would it be weird if Chicagoist.com was not in Chicago? Or
like in Toronto or something? That'd be great. And I've been with them for about 1.5 years now. Prior to that, I was working as a, digital photographer for a bunch of student newspapers as I was going through college. So
cool. And Ron?
Coming to you live from Hawaii, Ron Hamilton. See me every week right here on Around the Lens.
Yes, indeedy. All right, well, let's get on with the show. We got a lot to talk about tonight, and we got to get all done before the 4th of July holiday starts. Before I do that, though, of course, I have to recommend you all go out to aroundthelens.com to check out our baseline website and see all the shows. Everything is kept there. You can also find us on social media on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. We're Around the Lens. On Twitter, we're at Lens. And on Facebook, we're the Around the Lens podcast. So please go to those platforms, like, subscribe, follow, all that good fun stuff. Additionally, if you're watching this on YouTube, we have a YouTube channel, so please subscribe to it so you get notified as soon as we go live and when the episode is posted online. And that'd be great. Really appreciate that. All right. So our first topic this evening in the news category, is all about the Defense Media Activity Awards. So these are awards that the Department of Defense conducts every year to honor the best photojournalists, broadcasters, and graphic illustrators in the military. So they take all the different services, supply their nominations to these awards, and then a panel of 3 judges critiques them, reviews them, and picks the best of the year. So we had the announcement of the winners for this year's prizes, and I just want to go through and talk about those winners, kind of the imagery that was chosen. And full disclosure, I've entered this competition multiple times back when I was an enlisted military person. So it's a really awesome award, very prestigious, I feel, and you really see some of the best imagery out of the DoD come out of this. So it's to see. So let's talk about the awards themselves and the imagery that was chosen in general. And while I look at this, I'm going to try and find the rest of the imagery. What sucks is they don't usually put the imagery immediately online right after the awards are done. I'm going to try and find those while we're talking about it. But let's throw to you, Ron, first, because you're prior military. Did you ever participate in agency, MilFog or Milbit or anything when you were in? I don't know if you were
never
that
did, sir. What a great set of images though we had this year. It's
Absolutely.
Really amazing to see how they could even settle on a winner. So many great photographs out there. I do like the ones they chose. That is very nice stuff there. But I wonder what we didn't see. And
well, they'll publish it eventually. They just don't publish it immediately.
Right.
I'm going to try and find that for you. But I think the photographs, at least from the two winners, we had an Air Force photojournalist, Sergeant Richardson. Let me full name of him. Air Force Staff Sergeant James Richardson Jr. Was the Military Photographer of the Year. And the Marine Corps Sergeant Isaac Ibarra was named Military Videographer of the Year. So these are the representatives from the best of the best, and they'll be going to the White House News Photographer Association Eyes of History Award Gala in June. So let me throw it to either you or Tyler or our newcomer here, Rick. Let me ask you two: have you ever heard of this award, and kind of what do you think of the winners?
So I've been a member of NPPA for about a year now, a year and a half, and so we always get the little announcements of these kind of awards all the time, even if they're not NPPA awards. Just like the link that you sent us is an NPPA story about it. So I have heard of it. What I find interesting, though, is that this is just another facet of the military that takes photojournalism seriously, while the rest of our government really doesn't. And it's really enlightening to see that. I've seen a lot of great photos come out of the military because at one point in time I did want to be a combat journalist, whether or not joining the Air Force or trying to freelance over there. But it's very refreshing. It's very refreshing just seeing the fact that the United States military in 2016, despite everything that's going on politically in this country, still takes photojournalism seriously.
Well, yeah, I mean, this award has been around for a long time, and so, it'd be surprising if anything happened to it. I think there'd be a big uproar, considering especially that the administration, military and is very much in the support of the military. So, but Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, I've been a member of MPPA for a while, so when they do have the awards, I remember there's always just great work. Those guys get great access. Really envious of the access they get, actually. And once upon a time, I was actually looking at joining the military, and I either wanted to go into, my first choice was to go to Ranger School, and my second choice would have been combat photography. But I had a family member who was in the military at the time who he didn't talk me out of going into the Army, but he talked me into going to college first, which is when I took my first photo class, and then I just spiraled. I went that direction. And he also, because I asked him about combat photography, and he told me, like, oh, we don't really use those guys anymore. It's kind of outsourced. So I'm like, oh, okay, forget it. Yeah. And then actually I was at my day job, and there was like a Army pamphlet just sitting there on the counter, and I just picked it up and flipped it open. The first photo on the inside is a woman photojournalist, in full BDUs and a K-POC, and I'm like, he lied to me. And I asked him about it, and he's like, yeah, we do have them, but there's not too many of them. And I was kind of pissed, but I know why he did it now. My family, even though I come from a military family, to go into the military just because it was in the middle of the Iraq War, and I would have ended up in combat, and that's the last thing my mother would have wanted. My mother actually almost killed my father when my dad did take me to the recruiter to just have a little chat. I still remember that day very vividly. But yeah, those guys, they do great work. So any credit they get, like, more power to them. And some of the photos, that one of what was it, a C-130 crew member, after covering 10,000 or completing 10,000 miles flight hours on it with the champagne, and that's just an awesome image. I mean, that's like, God, I wish I could see more stuff like that going around Chicago, but I guess you kind of do if you see people open up a fire hydrant. But lately it's a little, it hasn't been hot enough just yet. So yeah, I
will say that, I mean, amongst the military, you're going to capture the type of imagery you're not going to capture anywhere else, you know? And it's like, not going to capture an airline pilot, you know, getting doused with champagne after their last flight on a commercial airliner. I think that would go against some FAA regulations. But the military is its own beast that has its own sort of set of rules and also, you know, traditions. Yeah, I mean, I won I didn't win like the major competition. I won honorable mention a few times. That was pretty much the extent of what I had received. Really, when you applied for you knew exactly like how to winner, so to speak, just like, you know, with the people who do the Pulitzers, you know, they know how to create a winning package. Even though the judges are different each year and you're subject to their proclivities in terms of what they want to, you know, if you know sort of some of the fundamentals, what kind of things win the awards every year, you can kind of game the system, so to speak.
Yeah.
But obviously, you still have to create absolutely outstanding work. And the thing about the awards is you can be an absolutely great photographer, but if you're not outstanding, you don't even stand a chance. And even the outstanding stuff can get knocked out. I mean, one of the most fascinating things, and you guys tell me if you've ever watched this amongst any other awards, but watching the actual judging process, I think, is the most informative thing I've ever gotten from any of the awards, because you can see exactly like which pictures are going in and which pictures are going out live, and you'll see pictures that are just magnificent, beautiful shots, and they'll be like, no, seconds, no, and then pictures that are like, you know, make you scratch your head and make you wonder, what's the big deal about that, and they'll go all the way and win, like, you know, #1. So
yeah, it's just like photo contests in general. It's always hit or miss as to who's going to win. It's really hard to see what's in the minds of the judges. We've talked about this before.
Right, but have you ever actually watched a photo contest?
No, exactly. That's what I mean. But it's still getting inside their heads to see why they picked that one over the other one. You got to ask yourself, why did they do that?
Well, I just want to know from, you know, Tyler or Rick, have either of you watched a actual like judging process?
Well, the closest I've gotten was when I was in my when I was working for my college newspaper. We entered the Illinois Community College Journalism Association, which award ceremony each year, which goes to the Chicago Tribune's editorial staff, photo staff, whatever staff, you know, whatever the contest was, it went to that specific department. So writers were being judged by writers, editors were being judged by editors, so on and so forth. And they would leave notes. They would leave very detailed, specific notes on why we chose this image over the others. Image is third place, why we think this image is second place, why this image is honorable mention, so on and so forth. And you kind of get into the heads of what the judges are thinking. And what I know from at least the judging where we're from, you know, a beautiful picture is a beautiful picture. I mean, we can all agree on that. However, photo, and I'm pretty sure the same thing with this defense thing. A good defense photo, a good military photo, conveys more than just a pretty photo. It conveys more meaning, more story. It conveys a lot. And if your photo looks nice and conveys a message, it's a double win for you. If you more so than if just having one over the other. So
yeah, when it I haven't got to sit in on anyone editing a competition, but I really wish I could help me out when I'm doing pitches to different publications. But yeah, like Tyler said, the more if you have a beautiful photo and you have information, it's like if you think of it as layers, the more you have, just the more enriched the photo is going to be, and the more interested people are going to be into. And also, I guess if you knew, like with the military, if you knew that one of the judges was in the Air Force, you would probably want to, you know, have a real good shot of like an airplane or something with a flight crew, because you know, you'll have that connection. So there are some times where like doing. Not necessarily. Okay, interesting. So I was thinking if you could do some research on your editors and know what they're into, that might actually help you when you're. But then you're gonna have to do a lot of research on the different editors and see what they're into and like what personal projects they've worked on and that sort of stuff.
That'd be nice, but unfortunately, you don't have that luxury. First of all the imagery you shoot is from the year prior. So the 2017 awards were from 2016. All the stuff you shot in 2016. You had to have your stuff submitted before the event, you know, was judged.
Oh.
And you don't know who the judges are until the actual event. So there's no way. And plus there's, you know who the judge is, or the judge knows your work personally. That can create a conflict of interest. There have been instances where, you know, in just people working in this line of work, you know, we interact with people because a lot of the times the judges are picked from the civilian sector. I think it was done. One of the judges was a military member, which is, if it's been done in the past, that's news to me. But it's been, you know, ever since I've been doing it, it's always been 3 civilians from the industry. But they may have opened it up to have that sort of perspective, because that's what happens a lot is, like, you know, again, they'll pick somebody like Tyler or you to judge this competition because you guys represent the industry, you represent the, you know, the general people who are watching the, you know, absorbing the imagery. You have a little bit of disconnect. But the problem is that sometimes that disconnect can be counter to understanding what goes into taking a photograph. So, you know, you might see a photograph that looks like nothing, but there was a lot that was going on to that. And sometimes the military mindset or the military judge, you know, they could potentially bring sort of that perspective that you wouldn't necessarily have when you're looking at an image of, you know, that looks like benign to you, but it actually has significance, importance. So, yeah, they brought a military judge in, but no, you can't game the system for your judges. You basically just have to put out the best of what you think you've shot in the year, and then hope that it gets picked. And I tell you, nothing more exciting when, you know, they're going through your imagery and they say, "Yep," to yours. And, you know, I remember watching the awards one time, and one of my images got to the 2nd round, and I was like so excited, and they got knocked down in the 3rd round. I was like, oh, but I sort of won a little bit in my heart because, you know, and I wouldn't know that unless I watched it live. But now they actually broadcast the judging live each year. So this year I didn't realize it had been going on. I don't enter the competition anymore, but, you know, some opportunity. They've actually, you know, this is more inside baseball, that they've changed some of the way that they've done the award submission process. So, like, you know, most awards, anyone can enter those awards. But for this submission process for this year anyways, they did a sort of tiered award system where, you know, lower units had to submit their imagery up to higher units, and those higher units picked winners that went up to further higher units that eventually went up to the, you know, the big competition. So it's kind of like going from the locals to the nationals to the wide, so to speak.
Nice.
Anyways, do you guys enter the contests much yourself? Have you had much luck in the contest space?
I have never won any competition, and I wouldn't trust any competition that would let me win. So,
yeah, I've won the ICCJA stuff. And
what's that for our audience who doesn't know?
Oh, sorry, the Illinois Community College Journalism Association. So, you know, it's a state level award, but I kind of feel like I have somewhat of an unfair advantage just because where our school is located compared to the other community colleges in the state. So we get to cover really cool stuff, really newsworthy stuff, while they get to cover, like, you know, the first farming area. I mean, they can do some really cool feature ideas, but I guess, I don't know. They get into this mindset that, you know, once we enter, we automatically win, which does happen, but I think it's more because of the quality of our work more so than like the fact that we have so much cool stuff to photograph.
You obviously research the judges ahead of time, and you know.
Do it. Do it.
Well, like I said, every year it's the Chicago Tribune, so I mean.
I've sent my stuff into competitions, like all sorts of different ones, and never have won. So it's, yeah, I know there's a lot of competition. I've kind of done some research on, like, when they do tell me what who's going to be editing, I'll sometimes like look into seeing like who's there. But generally, I just kind of take whatever I shot recently that I thought was really amazing and send it in. And so far, I've always gotten shot down. So researching the editors isn't always a win. So, yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to our next topic this evening. Let's talk about our main topic tonight, which is documenting independence. So, you know, July 4th is tomorrow. Actually already seen fireworks displays, depending on, you know, when your area actually showcases them. Like, I already been to one fireworks show for the base that I work at. But, you know, what is sort of your goal with shooting, you know, an Independence Day celebration? You know, obviously you can do the same old and go out and shoot fireworks, and everybody loves fireworks. And I love this meme I see every year on Reddit, where it shows someone holding a camera phone, and there's like fireworks on it, and the meme is like, "Hey, let's look at that video of fireworks we shot last year." Like, says no one ever. Film it for some reason, and I've never looked at anything I've ever shot in the past, because I've got probably terabytes worth of fireworks photos and videos that will sit on my hard drive and collect digital dust until the end of time online in the cloud. But what do you guys, how do you approach the subject of Independence Day in general?
You know what I'd like to see? I don't know if anybody's ever thought of it before, but I think a really great photograph for the 4th of July would be like if you could have somebody wearing sunglasses and having the fireworks reflected in the sunglasses. I'll bet that would be really great. Somebody should think about doing that sometime.
That'd be cool.
I've never seen that before in my life, Ron. That's a great idea.
Either, but you know, yeah.
Hold on, let me just check to see if there's any images on the. Oh, yeah. See, let me see. 6,500,000 results, results of that exact image. Sorry, Ron. You know how it is. You have a good idea, but you check it on the internet. It's been thought of already. That's the thing about the internet.
That's the curse of having 7 billion people on the same planet. Someone's going to think of something before you.
We need to do is establish a new planet, and then everything will be original on there with our own internet. And yeah, but you know, you Tyler, you and Rick are working on a project, right?
Yeah, I'll kind of start it because I'll just kind of talk about what I did earlier this week. Talk a little bit about what me and Rick do, and then I'll have Rick take it over. But what I did earlier this week, so I had to cover Summerfest, which, if you don't know what Summerfest is, it's one of the largest music festivals in the Midwest. And actually,
hold on a second. What does that sound? Somebody's tapping something.
What was that?
Somebody's tapping something. Okay.
It's yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, it's one of the largest music festivals in the Midwest, and I think it's like the 3rd or 4th largest in the country. I could be wrong, but I think it is. It's a 7-day event, 8 stages. So I was only there for like the first 3 days, but they have their during those 3 days they had their big fireworks display. So, you know, of course I'm getting the normal fireworks shots that everyone wants and all that stuff, just because it's part of the festival. But then I kind of took it a little bit differently, and hits when the artists are supposed to come out, and I was taking photos of like people waiting in the crowd for the next artist to come out, looking at the fireworks. So that kind of created some really cool imagery there. And then the project that we work on, me and Rick work on. Rick has been working on it way longer than I have. I just started it last year when I pitched it to Chicagoist.com, which was the first publication in Chicago to ever do anything on it. and it's our neighborhood. It's called Pilsen, and it's a Latinx kind of, originally Polish, but then it became a Latinx kind of community, and so on and so forth. And they do this really great 4th of July festivities where it's not sanctioned by the city, it's not sanctioned by the neighborhood association or by the alderman, but it's kind of like everyone collectively does it. And it's like all these different block parties that are kind of interconnected, but they're not. And they all do their own fireworks display relatively at the same time. And we're talking about, standard store-bought stuff, and then we're talking about custom modified stuff. We're talking about professional level stuff. I mean, it's just a crazy mixed bag of different levels of fireworks that are used. And it honestly, just thinking about it, it kind of throws that, like, the idea of independence, being this big American holiday, kind of on its head, because mostly these are people that are Hispanic, most of these are Mexicans, most of these are, different, people within, South and Central America doing this. And they're doing it just like all the white people and black people that do it, that go to the lakefront and do it themselves. So it's its own cool little feature project, and Rick can explain a little bit better than I can.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Yeah, they actually do it better than any other group or neighborhood I've ever seen. To like narrow it down to what basically happens is the sun goes down and pretty much everyone just walks out onto the sidewalks. They'll actually block off the streets with cars, with garbage cans to make sure that no cars drive through, and people start grilling and conversing and just laughing and having a good time on the sidewalk. And then in the middle of the street, people just come out. A lot of it's the guys, a lot of it's the teenagers, and they just shoot off thousands upon thousands of fireworks. And it's everything you could possibly imagine, like a lot of motor shells. You'll see people with homemade motor shells where they'll all be rigged together, and they'll put multiple aerial shells in the motors and then fire them off, because it's just a lot easier to light that many. And when it's at its peak, no matter what direction you look at, something will be exploding. It's by far like the best celebration you could possibly have, and you're right there. Like, you can get burned well, I haven't seen any burns, but you could, in a sense. You're that close that you could get burned. And it's a great atmosphere. One, because it's just very welcoming. I've only had like 2 little minor issues over the years, because I've been photographing the 4th of July in Pilsen's for like 7 years, I believe. And like only just a few inches, but everyone's very welcoming. I've had people give me beers. I've had people give me tacos. It's just like, you get fed, you drink, you get to laugh with the families. I've actually gotten to know a lot of the families just because I've come so many years, watched their kids grow up. So yeah, during the holiday, you're becoming part of the family. And the first year I went down, I was talking to a public school teacher who also lived in the neighborhood, and he was telling me how like a lot of these people are like 2nd or 3rd generation American, but a lot of them are also like, straight, like they're just from across the border. And these people are very proud. They're proud of their heritage and their Mexican culture, but then they're also proud that they're actually in America and that they're going for that American dream. And it's an amazing, it's honestly the best celebration in the city. I don't know about for the whole U.S. I have to experience 4th of July elsewhere, but honestly, I would say it's probably the best in the United States for the 4th of July. And the last year when Tyler and I were walking around going to different block parties, we had 2 girls who were definitely not from the neighborhood came up to us and asked us, where does Pilsen celebrate their, where's their fireworks show? And we're both like, you're in the middle of it. Just any direction you go, you're going to find someone shooting fireworks, and they'll probably give you a few to shoot off yourself. Like, no worries. And it's the whole neighborhood coming together. And it's that, it doesn't matter if you're from a different block. It's a very welcoming atmosphere. And it's kind of how America should be, honestly. So yeah, that's our take.
Okay, great. So you guys have been doing this for multiple years?
I've been doing it, I think 7, and Tyler started last year with me. We kind of go in pairs and just kind of roam the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Have you seen any sort of change over the years?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year, because certain blocks that I've gone to were a little bit more quiet than other years, and I've actually talked with another artist who lives in the neighborhood about, like, because you've noticed it almost seems like it might be pulling back a little, and we were talking about that, and one reason might be because, you know, the cost of the fireworks has gone up, and then the second and probably bigger reason is, you know, gentrification, and, you know, as the Hispanic families are moving out and, you know, other people are moving in, the newer people don't celebrate it the same way, or with as much intensity. So it's definitely shifting slightly, but you'll still find pockets that are doing it like very, like, they still go at it just as hard as they did the year before. But yeah, that's since I've been doing it for a while, I've kind of noticed it. But certain streets, you'll notice a family will be doing it one year, and then the next year they won't. But then 2 years later, I'll see that family I did from a while back doing it again. So it kind of fluctuates. You know, I guess some people might want to go somewhere else because it's really loud. And Pilsen's already started with their fireworks show. Last 2 nights have been quite loud. Usually once around 9 o'clock, you'll start hearing something, you know, especially those M80s. Those things, yeah, usually you hear those and then you know, like, something's starting up. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll have some more, and I know tomorrow everyone will be out, so, yeah.
Okay, great.
And let me reiterate the intensity of this, because we're not just talking about all the store-bought stuff. There's one block that the tradition is to put one of those aerial shells, you know, the ones that blow up big in the sky, in newspaper boxes and blow up the newspaper boxes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it doesn't it doesn't end well. The door gets blown off and there's a little fire roasting in it, but every year it gets replaced. So
the next day it gets replaced.
Oh my god.
And last year towards the end, like a mortar fell over and like shot into me and Rick and like 2 other like neighbors that were near us while we were photographing.
Yeah.
And it kind of exploded around us.
Did you get the shot?
Rick did. I was going to cover.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for you guys saying you wanted to be combat photographers, that's the closest you're going to get right there.
Well, yes, and I don't know. I think I might have this weird fascination with fireworks because about a little over a year ago, I went down to Mexico to this town called Tultepec, and they were actually a few months back in the news because this town is where they make where they make the majority of fireworks in Mexico, and their firework market caught fire, and it was a huge fire. Several people were killed, and a lot of people were injured. But during I think the first week of March, they have this huge firework festival, and I mean, they know what they're doing. They're very good with fireworks. Although I've seen some crazy things that I saw one guy packing some fireworks while smoking a cigarette. Hands were just covered in gunpowder, and he's just packing it. But they on March 8th, they have this the toros, and that's where for about a month before, they build these giant paper mache bulls, and they're on wheels. And then they rig them with these like thousands and thousands of homemade fireworks, little like cardboard tubes with paper tails, and they just have them all strung together. And on March 8th in the morning, they parade them around town. The whole town comes out, and then at dusk they go to the town center, and one by one they push them through the town square, lighting the fuse. And so you have like a bunch of guys pushing these bulls with fireworks just going off all crazy. And I've photographed that, and that was a whole nother level, because no matter what, you were going to get pelted. Like, you couldn't dodge it. There were too many fireworks. It was the mix between an insane fireworks show and a mosh pit, because like bodies were everywhere. There was so much smoke. You actually sometimes couldn't actually see the bull where it was. And sometimes it's organized, but it's not as, there aren't as many safety regulations as you would have here in the States. Yeah, you'll have multiple bulls sometimes going off at the same time. So if you're not looking, you'll actually have one come up behind you. And that actually did happen to me. My jacket it didn't catch fire, but it started to smolder. Like I had my bandana I was wearing, I got an ember right in the throat, and it just started burning. And I realized, like, why is my neck so hot? And then I realized it's smoking, and I'm like patting myself down, and multiple people came up to me and helped put it out. People grab you and pick you like mosh pit rules. And the phrase is, because it coincides with St. John of God, who was a patron saint of firework makers. And the phrase down there is, to be burned is to be blessed by the saint. And going down there, I was thinking about that. Like, you want to get blessed, but at the same time, you don't want to. It's that weird, like, you want to be a part of it, but you don't want to get seriously injured. As I did actually run into 2 other Americans, and one of the guys from San Francisco got a real bad burn on his hand. But he was a nurse, so he was able to take care of himself. But I did actually end up getting burned on the inside of my thigh. Didn't actually feel it because my adrenaline was going so fast that I didn't realize it till I was taking a shower trying to wash off the gunpowder that I realized I had a nice burn on my thigh. So the Hispanic people know what they're doing with fireworks, and they know how to handle it. But yeah, Pilsen at times can definitely, going back to Pilsen, it can feel like a war zone. So yeah, you just got to watch out for those aerial shells when they end up in the streets.
Absolutely.
Is that the town I've heard about in Mexico where everybody's missing fingers because of the fireworks? That's their biggest.
There are missing fingers. Certain people do lose them, but I didn't see too many people who lost fingers. Because again, like, it's a lot of the people I saw making these toro, because the people who push them in the square, they're kind of younger guys, like, and you mainly see the guys who are running around the square. Because you'll have thousands of people watching from the outside, but the people actually in the square who are pushing them and running alongside them, those are like younger guys. A lot of machismo kind of going on. A lot of the guys are going shirtless, trying to, they're trying to get blessed. I actually got a few great shots of guys like kind of chumming it up for the camera with a bull blowing up behind them. And, and it's, yeah. So I guess the older guys, once you lose a finger, you probably retire yourself from that. But not too, I mean, yeah, there are people who are missing fingers, but not too many. I think they know that limit of, like, not to smoke the cigarette too close to the gunpowder, but, close enough to get that, nicotine buzz, which sounds horrible, actually, now that I say it out loud. But yeah. Oh, there's a firework. See, they're already starting out.
And to kind of wrap up on that, over the last, I think after the initial publication of Chicago's, because we were the first ones to actually do anything on it, Rick had been pitching this to every publication, with photos, without photos, so on and so forth. No one wanted it. Chicago's picked it up from me. And then since then, a lot of Chicago media is now getting interested. Rick was just published in the Chicago Reader, which is owned by the Chicago Sun-Times. So it's starting to get some traction, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Chicago Tribune photographer be out taking photos of this as well. So yeah, that was a nice thing to cover. So yeah.
No, they also celebrate the 4th of July in the Philippines.
Do they?
Cool.
Honest to God, they have fireworks and everything, and the occasion is Philippine American Friendship Day, and they celebrate 4th of July. My wife is from the Philippines, and she came to Hawaii, and I said, honey, do you know why the fireworks are going off today? Do you know what it means? She says, yes, Philippine American Friendship Day. I said, no, we don't celebrate that here. That's just in the Philippines. Here it's Independence Day. Independence from who? Who do you think America won their independence from? Philippines? No, not Philippines.
That would be interesting. Revisionist history. So let me ask you, Ron, what are you guys doing in Hawaii to celebrate 4th of July this year, and what have you done in the past in terms of coverage?
4th of July is not the big firework holiday here. It is a big firework holiday, don't get me wrong. Celebrate it the same as everywhere else in the United States. However, New Year's Eve is the big firework holiday here, because there's a lot of people who don't really like being part of the United States here. So they don't make a big deal about it. Same thing on Statehood Day. They don't make a big deal about it. They're not too happy about that here sometimes. But the New Year's, the gun smoke is so thick that it's hard to drive around parts of the island. Even, you know, you don't want to have the headlights on too bright because you can't see. It's like fog. It's like a very thick fog. And then if you roll down your windows, of course, you can't breathe.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's more New Year's. 4th of July is a bit more subdued. They have public displays, and there are a few people that will go do stuff, but we don't blow apart mailboxes or anything here. More of an organized event.
They have like one major event in like the main big island, or is it they have events throughout the islands?
Not everywhere, everywhere. Hawaii is a state, you know, and the various islands, there's a lot of fireworks displays. The military bases do something. All the bases have something going on. Different beaches around the island. You can see firework displays from different parts of the island. Windward side, leeward side, out west side. A lot of firework displays. So I'm going to try to get somebody's reflection in sunglasses.
What I would capture with regard to fireworks is I would take
palm trees and fireworks.
No. Hey. Here's what I would do. I would take as many fireworks as I could physically carry on my person. And I would climb up to the highest volcano, the highest active volcano, and I would just dump those fireworks into the volcano. And just whatever happens, happens. Is that something you can do? Is there an active volcano I can dump fireworks into?
You know what? I'm game, man. I got a few days to plan for this, or tomorrow, I guess. I can do it. I'll wrap it up. I'll get some GoPro footage.
Yeah. Let us know how that goes. And if you're on next week's show, if you survived with your fingers, then I'll know it was a success.
It all went well. Exactly.
It was awesome. The footage is great. I did lose a couple fingers though, but it was worth it.
To Mexico.
Worth it for the footage.
Beautiful country.
You know, I can never remember. Like before I became a photographer, I never photographed fireworks, any sort of thing like that. I can't remember ever doing it. Maybe I took a couple snaps with my point and shoot. You know, when I went to like Disney World and they had the fireworks displays over there. Then after I became a photographer, every single fireworks show, it's like, hey, there's an opportunity to grab the camera and go out and take some pictures. I think the only times I wasn't photographing fireworks was because I was busy, I was on call, and I couldn't actually go out to the fireworks show. But, you know, remember, I've always photographed fireworks. I'd say when I lived in DC, that was very impressive because, you know, with DC, it's like if you want to see the fireworks up close, you got to get into DC like at noon the day of. You're never going to get in there. And I remember being stationed there, and you know, the first year I just kind of rolled up in there that evening thinking I'll be fine. And yeah, but you know, although I didn't get very close, it was fine because the monuments made a great sort of foreground subject with regard to the fireworks. And I've done the fireworks with, you know, tripod and camera and with film and digital. I come to the conclusion that I can get decent fireworks shots handheld if I just stabilize myself enough. And you know, it's always playing around with the right sort of recipe of light in terms of what makes a good shot, because obviously if the exposure is too long, you might get an overblown shot. If the exposure is too short, you won't get holes and whatnot. So it's trying to find that nice balance. And I'll be going out to shoot fireworks tomorrow at the beach here in Biloxi. And my goal was also last on the first, when I photographed on our base, was to try and get shots of my son fireworks as much as I could, because it was his first fireworks display. So that was it was a really big treat for him to see that. And I'll be doing that same thing tomorrow. Me and the boy will go out and get some shots of fireworks and have some fun and just chilling on the beach. Last year we went out to Biloxi and also photographed on the beach. And one of the shots I always tried to get with my wife with regard to fireworks was trying to get the shot of the fireworks going off in the background, and me and my wife are, you know, in the foreground. So trying to get that nice balance. And that was really tough to get, because there were a few shots that were, you know, beautiful that I shot that were a little bit soft because I was doing it, and it was just like the focus is off. But we got a few decent shots, and I'll try and do something like that with my son, although he'll probably not be able to not turn and look at the camera, you know, when there's fireworks going off behind him. But I'll try to get that shot. If it doesn't work out, so
maybe
be
you
it.
can get an
And
American
last
flag
year-
reflected in sunglasses. How about that one?
Hey, there you go. I'll put the sunglasses on my son and get me reflected with the fireworks behind me. Or I'll put sunglasses on and get him reflected in my sunglasses while he's looking at the fireworks.
Like an infinity mirror. Yeah.
How many levels of Inception can I go into with the fireworks shots?
That'd be funny.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
But you know, fireworks are just fun to shoot. I mean, I've shot them pretty much every time I've ever had the opportunity because I think they're just, you know, it's an annual thing. It doesn't happen all the time, and two, it's, you know, as many times as you see them, they never get boring. You know, it's never like, oh, geez, fireworks again.
Yeah.
Oh, man, maybe if you work on Disney World and you know they blow fireworks every night, but you know, in the regular world, I think it's, you know. And I think, people don't like to, you know, I don't care about shots of fireworks themselves. I want to see fireworks in context of their environment. You know, if you're not shooting that way, you're just making boring imagery.
Yeah, completely.
Speaking of fireworks,
I think my
sure
first. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ron.
No, I was just
I'm
saying
going to go
that
to our next subject.
my first year back in Hawaii, I took fireworks reflecting in the ocean. I thought that was a groovy thing, but I've moved on since then. I've gotten tired of that shot.
You know, that sounds like a really great idea, Ron. I don't think let me check Google. Oh, 17 million shots of. Sorry, Ron, that's been done before. I'm sorry.
Everything's been done before. We're all just copying each other now.
Pretty much. But speaking of fireworks, there were a lot of online fireworks about Canon's recent announcement of the 6D Mark II. So if you're a Canon fan, and I used to be a Canon fan, I was a diehard Canon user, had the 5D Mark II, my camera. But then a couple of years ago, I discovered the Panasonic GH series. Ron, this is my, as per court mandated, mention of the Panasonic cameras.
I'm just sorry Zach isn't here to witness this.
He'll watch it. He'll watch it online afterwards. I'll force him to. Anyways, so I discovered that camera primarily. I needed something that shot I wanted something that shot 4K, and
this
really,
is your sensor size. Your sensor size is this big.
My sensor size is this big, and then this is the Canon. Anyways,
I'll start measuring.
Anyways, yeah. So, anyways, I got the Panasonic cameras, and since then I've sold off all my Canon gear. But, anyways, if you're still into the Canon realm, and I like to watch it from the outside, the Canon announced the 6D Mark II, and you thought, like, okay, great, full frame. The next level camera is 2017. I'm sure this camera is going to have all the major things you'd want in a Canon camera to include 4K video. And then you're like, nope, no 4K video. And this has been something that the internet has just blown up in terms of, like, why, Canon? Why can't you give us 4K video on something other than your C series and your super level high-end cameras? So I'll throw it out to you all. What do you guys think of this announcement? I mean, can you look past this and see a decent camera here, or is the 4K, something sort of a deal breaker for you? And you're kind of. Anybody shoot Canon, by the way? You guys shoot Canon or Nikon?
I shoot Nikon. So whatever I say, people are going to be like, oh, you're just a Nikon fanboy.
Nikon. It's pronounced Nikon. I shoot Canon.
Okay, I'll start it off, guys. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I shoot Canon, but I also shoot Fuji X. So it kind of matters what I'm shooting it for. If I'm doing video, it's going to be Canon. If it's sports, it'll be Canon. But pretty much anything else will be my Fuji X. I have actually 2 Fuji X Pro 2s, and I love that system. Go Fuji. And yeah, so back to you, Ron.
Well, yeah, Canon shooter here myself. I'm going to go against the grain. I love the new 6D. I think it's a great camera. I like the autofocus. I like the swivel screen. I still shoot a crop sensor camera just because of my video. It's nice to have a flippy little screen to see myself if I'm shooting myself, or to compose things from wide angles. I like the flippy screen. So is it worth $2,000 for me to upgrade? Not right now. But I think in a while when prices come down, maybe around 15, I go in.
Yeah.
I don't like to be first.
Here's
I like to be third or fourth.
Here's my major issue with that camera, and there's plenty of issues with that camera. One, it feels like this camera was designed for 2012, because quite honestly, I have 3 tabs open of 3 cameras that can compete with that camera in functionality and even in just everything it has to offer, and that's the Sony A7 II, the Nikon D500, which yes is not a full frame camera, but they're comparing the two at this point, and then the Panasonic GH5, which again is not a full frame camera, but for relatively the same price, you can get those 3 cameras, not all together, but you can get all 3 of those cameras, and they have 4K recording. They have practically everything that Canon has, and a lot of them are cheaper. The Sony A7 II, $1,500. The Nikon D500, $1,500. And the Panasonic GH5 is at the Sony level of $2,000. But I would still go with the GH5 just because of all the different mods you can do with it, all the different hacks to the software you can do to it, and all the different types of lenses. Yes, the L series is great, but I've seen some great work in filmmaking with a lot of legacy glass. So,
I guess my point is too is that I have the Canon glass already. I wouldn't want to change systems.
Right.
The other point would be we don't broadcast in 4K on my station. We only shoot 1080p anyway, so 4K for me is not that big of a deal.
Right, but then, okay, here's my other major issue. And I'm not trying to go back and forth with you, but there is a lot of, like, I've been reading the forums on this. It only has the 1 card slot, which is what's going on with that. What's going on with that? Like, and it's ridiculous. They did the same thing with didn't they do the same thing with the 7D Mark II as well? One card slot, right? Yeah. And then they did something really funky with the 5D Mark IV, which is an SD and a CF slot.
CF, yeah.
CF anymore. I mean, I'll tell
7D
you from
shooters.
Nikon point of view, the D5 came out with 2 options. It came out with the XQD option, and it came with the CF option. If you want to get a Nikon D5 at launch, you got the CF version because Nikon had a stockpile because no one wanted them. No one wants CF anymore. So it's just really weird the different business decisions Canon has been making, and it really starts to lead me to believe, and it's leading a lot of photographers to believe, they want 2 systems, a stills camera system and a video system in their C100, C300, C whatever 100, which in this day and age, that's not what the consumer wants. And as a freelancer, I need to have all the tools in one tool because I need to be able to compete. And if this was going to be my second body, because, you know, most of us run 2 bodies, if this is going to be my second body because I can't really afford a 1DX or I can't afford a second 5D Mark IV, this is going to be a really tough body to have.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about having, like, when Tyler and I are going to be going out tomorrow, like, I'll definitely be carrying both my Canon and my Fujis, and I'll most likely have my Canon set up to do video, and I'll have my mic on it, and I'll have my stabilizer and everything, and I'll have that ready to go. But then I also carry the Fujis, just because the one thing I like about having one dedicated for video, one dedicated for stills, is like it helps me switch mentally. Like, and also just like I know when I grab my Canon, I know the settings are going to be set up for video. Everything will be ready to go. There have been times, especially on the 4th of July, where I would just use my Canon, well, because I just had my Canon, and I would, you know, I would do something stupid like forget to turn on the microphone, or I would be trying to, like, you know, set up my monopod and completely miss the shot. So that's one thing I do like about having like 2 different, like one dedicated for film, one dedicated for filming and one dedicated for photo. But yeah, like especially if you're like an independent filmmaker, and you also do some like we all do freelancing on the side, you know, to make the money. So having that one camera to do it all, is like you kind of need that, just because in this day and age, like you're hustling. Well, you're always hustling. Like it doesn't matter what time, what period you're from in the photo world. You're always hustling. You're always trying to find new clients. You're always trying to get your old clients to actually pay you for the work you already did. It's a never-ending cycle of just trying to find more work and then try to get paid for the work you did. And but a lot of people, you want that 4K, but at the end of the day, if you're going to be, you know, just putting it back down to 1080, like, you're just kind of adding more, like, you're just taking up more space on your hard drive. Like, do you really need it? Like, I could, especially like if you're going to be shooting video and you're going to have lights, you know, you can actually get away with a like an older system. So I think people have to look at the bigger picture when it comes to like whether or not you actually need 4K. And because yeah, if you're just putting on YouTube, then like what's the point?
Well, YouTube supports 4K footage and 8K footage if you have the camera for that. We've had this argument about 4K in the past, and I'm not going to retread it completely, but I will say, yes, the people say like, oh, why do I need 4K? I only shoot and broadcast in 1080p. You're forgetting the fact that 4K allows you to push in, and you can create panning shots. You can create second shots if you're doing an interview, you can create punch-ins for your interview. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility, even 4K in a 1080p space. Belabor the point. I think this camera is great if you're a photographer and you care more about photography, and that's what you're looking for. I think it's a bit overpriced for what it does. If you just want a photo camera, I think there are cheaper options that give you the same sort of capability with regard to just photography. If you don't care about video, great. But I mean, in this day and age, it's 2017. If you're not shooting in 4K, I think you're behind the times. And, from a space, I think you want to shoot the highest resolution you can reasonably afford. I mean, honestly, if they come out with a GH6 next year that can shoot 8K, I own a 1080p TV set. My house can even display 4K. Doesn't mean I'm not going to buy the 8K, GH6 or whatever. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to shoot in 8K because road, when my son is looking at, home movies, he's going to be able to look at that imagery and be like, oh, okay, wow, that's in a modern day format that I watched today. Or they're going to have 32K TVs, and he's going to be like, man, this is so low res. I can barely stand this soft, out of focus garbage. 16K, come on. What is that, amateur hour?
Sure. Yeah, we'll probably be doing holograms then.
Pretty much. But see, I mean, I think this. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the camera is, good for what it is. If you're a still shooter, and all you care about is still shooting, then great. Go, more power to Canon and what they're doing. I think they're the kings of still shooting, and I think that they're, again, I love the 5D Mark IV for shooting 4K, but it's shot in such a poor quality version compared to everything else everybody else was doing. I'm like, I'm not even gonna go there. So it's just,
well, if anybody does happen to pick up a Canon 6D Mark II and you're looking for some good deals on lenses, now's your chance to go to aroundthelens.com, where we have an article up with some refurbished Canon lenses.
What? And who is that article written by, Ron?
Some genius photographer, I'd imagine. I don't know.
Somebody looking out for deals. That's right. Ron's weekly deals series. Every week he's going to be showing up new deals. So go to aroundthelens.com for Ron's deals. They're crazy. Crazy. Everything's got to go. Ron's crazy deals. You gonna make this a weekly series?
Why not, man? Let's see what I can come up with.
There you go. That's the spirit. As long as people put stuff on sale.
Not everything will come from China, but some stuff will.
All right. Ooh, I like your graphic that you put.
Yeah.
It's not sexually suggestive at all. Anyways, any last thoughts on the Canon 6D Mark II?
I'm just gonna wrap up. First of all, I do like the fact that they brought the tilty flippy screen. I think Nikon was the first one to come out with an articulated screen for a full-frame camera with the D750. And that thing is the most convenient thing possible. It sounds like a ridiculous, gimmicky kind of thing, but when you need to get over-the-head shots, when you need to get low shots, it's fantastic. And I actually kind of wish they had a more tilty, flippy kind of like, I can shoot it behind myself if I need to. And hopefully in the next whatever, we get that. So I do like that feature of the 6D. So I don't want to be completely negative, but I feel like Canon's still feeling like this is the early 2000s and the only competitor they have to worry about is Nikon. And I think Nikon's doing the same thing. I think they're starting to get the idea because they finally are figuring out people want video. But we live in a day and age where Sony's doing fantastic work. You know, that new what is it, the A2, A whatever? A9? They just announced recently. A9, yeah. Their new A9 system looks fantastic. You have Nikon finally getting it into their head that, oh, people want video. People want a camera that's not just super high megapixels or super low megapixels. They kind of want that in between. You have Panasonic doing countless fantastic GH cameras. I mean, I've used a GH1, and I've been using I used the GH series all the way through film school, all the way up to about the GH4. And Fuji is doing fantastic work. You know, they're making the medium format. They're making medium format affordable. The only company to actually be brave enough to make medium format affordable. So there's so much. I mean, it feels like we're in the 80s, the 70s, 80s, 60s, where there's so many camera manufacturers now that are doing great work, and I think that's refreshing. But I'm really hoping that eventually Canon and Nikon kind of like kick it into gear and realize, oh wait, we're kind of the leaders, and we're losing that spot now. Yeah,
it's just whether or not they're going to realize it before it's too late.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, really matters whatever the client wants. Like, if my client wants like 1080, I'll give them 1080. If they want 4K, then yeah, I'll go and get a camera, whatever. I'll just rent it. So really, whatever, as long as your client's happy and they hire you again, that's really important. So
good philosophy. All right, well, let's wrap up this episode. And why don't you guys tell us where we can reach more about you, Rick and Tyler? Why don't you go and tell us more where we can find you online? Rick, you first, because you're the newbie.
I'm the newbie. Okay, you can find me on, let's see, my website, rickmajeski.com. Also on Twitter, Rick Majeski. I think it's just Rick Majeski. Although I really gotta get better at Twitter. Don't use it enough. And then also on Tumblr. Do Tumblr a lot. It's Camera Bum. So that's a pretty easy one to find me at. So yeah.
Okay. Tyler?
And then you can just find me at chicagoist.com. Usually any photo gallery that's shot is 9 times out of 10 me. Or you can find me at Tyler LaRiviere. It's my name as it's spelled, as you can see it right there, just no space. On Twitter and on Facebook, LaRiviere Photography. I don't have a website because I'm really bad at this, and I don't update any of my social media platforms because I don't know, I'm terrible at this stuff. But yeah, mostly Chicagoist.
All right, great. Well, you can find either Ron or me at aroundthelens.com. Find all our contact information there. And again, like I said before, please like this show on any platform you can find it on. We really need subscribers on our YouTube channel, so please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Please like the show on Facebook. Comment on this post when I publish it on the show and you hear about it. Review us in iTunes or Google Play. Really need those reviews to help raise the visibility of the show, so any support you can provide to us is always appreciated. Anyways, for Ron Hamilton, I want to say thanks to all our guests. Tyler and Jake, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be part of the show. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry, Rick. Rick and Tyler, thank you so much for being a part of the show. For Ron Hamilton, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 81, and we are out.